So good morning, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the hunt for new revenue. It's based on the movie The Hunt for Red October, right? So it's a program here, and we're at that point now where we want to go and really find new revenue. I think that my goal for today is to share with you some of the things that we should be doing for the next 30, 60, 90 days till the end of the year, and probably even beyond that, right? One of the things we found is that today we should be doing things that really we should have been doing all along. So some of this will be a reminder to you, some of this could be new for you, and my goal here is to give you those things, to some tools, mindsets, strategies, so that you can move forward and continue to be successful. So that's really the goal for today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Sandler Research Center. The Sandler Research Center was put together 2.5 years ago, and you'll learn a little bit more about that, because the things I'm going to share with you today are really based on raw data. It's not my opinion. I'm going to share with you some studies that were done and really identify 3-4 things, key areas that you can focus on, should be, or at least be aware of, so that you can move forward and get your feet back under you, start to grow your business if you haven't. By the way, I mean, I've heard some people, they had the best April they ever had. They kept their eye on the ball. Maybe they were in a certain business where business came to them. Maybe it was an essential business. But then there are others that said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my foot on the pedal. I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to control the things I can control. And they're doing quite well. So let's, now, I said this earlier, my upfront contract, feel free to participate. Could benefit all. If there's something that you like to say, something you wanted to share. I want to bring you up to speed on where I've been so far and how I've been working with clients and others and associations and so forth. So, we started about 2 months ago, and certainly it was shocking awe for everybody. And then we started to talk about, hey, how do we survive? I mean, we probably, you're well aware that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we went down a level. It was surviving. We first want to get our feet under us. How do we survive? How do we think clearly? How do we not look so far in the future, but start to do the things that are going to help us to progress? So we've been working on that. And then how to thrive. My own personal mission, I mean, I bought into this concept. I heard it was through what I do here at Sandler, but it's really, how can I help you to be a slingshot when you come out of this thing? And that's really been my passion and my mission. And day by day, working with people so you can be a slingshot and really come out better than you have before. And sometimes people say, oh, come on, Dan, that's a little far-fetched. It's really not, because really it could be your defining moment. I would ask you to even Google Jim Collins From Good to Great. 20 years ago, that book was really getting a lot of play, and there's a lot of great concepts in there. But he recently did a little podcast on the Stockdale paradox, and that was really about people being in POW camps and not knowing when it was going to change, not knowing if they ever got out. But I really believe that you can survive and thrive, and the things you do now really can help you to have your defining moment so you come out stronger than ever. The question is, do you believe that or not? And I watch people doing it, so I'm a believer. What are the behaviors, attitudes, and techniques? So I've been working with everybody on, hey, what's your cookbook now? What are the things that you need to do on a daily basis? If you're a leader, what goes into your cookbook? How are you managing your people? How are you coaching your people? If you're in sales, what are the things that you're doing that are going to help you to move forward? What are those activities? Are they defined? Are they, do you have a quantity next to them? What are they? We'll talk a little bit about that today as well. What's your attitude? Are you seeing doom and gloom, or are you seeing an opportunity? Do you have your head in the sand? And by the way, studies show that we have found that there are people out there who have said, you know what, let's just say 20% out there that say, hey, you know what, Dan, I got a plan. I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to win regardless. You got 20% of the people have their head in the sand. They say, look, I'll pick my head up. When people start going back to work and so forth, I'll see where I am, see how we're doing, continue doing things like I've always done. And then there's 60% of the people out there who are reactive, and they're looking for a way. They're looking for a plan. They're looking how to do things better, looking to learn. And so You know, I don't know what bucket you're in, but I've certainly been working with the people who are open-minded and seeing this as a time to sharpen their saw. I mentioned a little bit about leadership strategies. You know, leaders have their own issues going on, their own families, their own survival. How do they go then and lead their people? How do they give the empathy that's required? How do they still do their job and hold people accountable and so forth, while managing people from home, while not seeing people, while used to seeing people and used to getting things done and used to seeing progress? And then, you know, things have been put on hold a little bit or on pause. So we've been talking about that. Resetting your goals. That's one thing. A lot of business owners I speak to, the first thing they say is, well, Dan, you know, I'm not where I was. Let's face it, it's not where the year that I thought it was going to be. And then there are others that say, yes, it will be the year it is going to be. But I think for the most part, I'm hearing that people are saying it's not the year they thought it was going to be. We're suggesting, and for salespeople, reset your goals. Don't look at it so far out. Look 30 days out. Look a week out. Look a day out. You know, there's this concept called VUCA. Don't know if you ever heard of it, but they teach it in the U.S. Military Academy, and they teach it in the Air Force to pilots, VUCA. And what they're looking for is volatility, uncertainty, the chaos and ambiguity. When you're in a fight, when you're in a fighter plane, it's uncertain. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's chaotic, and it's ambiguous. And that's the environment we found ourselves in. So what they suggest is, don't look 3 minutes out, look 3 seconds out. So I'm suggesting to all my clients and the folks that I work with, reset your goals. Don't look at them and get discouraged. Set shorter term goals in all areas of your life. It's the perfect time to do that. And then what is a win for you? Don't make these big wins that are out there that might not happen. But what are things you can accomplish and you can feel good about yourself? So hopefully some of that makes sense. The playbook, the virtual playbook, I hope that everybody is taking the time to put, and I'll share this again a little later, to put together their playbook. What are the, what are the stalls, the objections? What's your framework? What's your selling system? How are you going to go out and be prepared for what you're going to hear? Be prepared for when people say, what's your return on your investment? People say, how are you going to be different than your competition now? Be prepared. Don't just show up. Good leaders are working with their people. They're role playing. They're identifying what are the things that they have to be prepared for. So let me just, it's kind of hard to, yeah, VUCA. Okay, well, Roman, glad you love VUCA. I'm trying to monitor it a little bit, but it's true, right? So be prepared. Now, one of my favorite slides here, can I tell you they're all my favorite because there's good stuff. Look at this. Does anybody remember the name of the coach from the San Francisco 49ers when Joe Montana was the quarterback? Bill Walsh, right? Bill Walsh. So look at this play out of his playbook. I promise you, this is what he's showing to professional players. Forming and breaking the huddle. Center always sets up huddle 8 yards from ball. The huddle is circular. Keep it that way so all can hear. Line up quickly with hands on knees in position. It's such basic, but they get the basics right. They get the basics right. So some of the things you're going to hear today are going to be things that, you know what, these are things I have to get back to. These are things that always worked. These are things that I have to do like nobody else and be great at the basics. But I'm suggesting to you, even if it's not basic, what's your playbook so that there's no ambiguity, so that you know what you're doing, so you have a process. What's your sales process? Are all your people talking the same language? Do you know where you went right? Do you know where you went wrong? These types of things so that everybody's on the same page. So let's get back to talking about the hunt for new revenue. When it comes to new revenue, what's your biggest struggle? You could put some in the chat. I mean, certainly have an agenda here today, but if there's something that I feel that I might be able to help and I can call an audible, if you will, since we're on football terms. Perhaps I can help you with something that might be your biggest struggle. So feel free to put that in the chat. Okay, let's talk a couple minutes here about the Sandler Research Center. The Sandler Research Center is in collaboration with Top Sales World. So we've collaborated with Business Intelligence, with an organization that does business intelligence for our industry. And by the way, at the end, I have some little goodies here for you at the end. What you'll be able to do is get the report. There was a report done last fall, which is the hunt for new business. So what I'm going to be sharing with you here are the best practices that have been put together. What happened was we said, we touch hundreds of thousands of salespeople each year, if not millions over a period of time. And there's all this data out there that we've collected of the best companies and what they're doing, yet we don't have any way to sort it out. We don't have any way to aggregate it, put it all together so that we can help not only us as trainers for you, but to help the businesses that we work with as well. So I want to share a little bit with you some of the data that's possible, and you will also okay. And we have here contact new prospects by phone, email, or in person. So that's great, and I want to make sure that we're going to cover a little bit about that as well. So. Righty. Tough sales challenges. We're going to talk about that for sure. I'm going to share critical insights based on some of this data, and it's worldwide research because it's over 1,500 respondents to this, over 800 companies, 66 countries. We asked about their clearly defined strategies. How do they maximize time, maximize costs, and where and how to hunt? And the one thing we want to talk about is client profiling. Are you really going after the right people that are going to help you to grow your business? Are you focusing on the right people? Are you taking anything? I deal with companies today, and they're looking for business, and they're doing all kinds of quotes and proposals and saying, I just want to get something. It doesn't matter. And yet they're tired, and they're discouraged, and they're frustrated, and they're just trying to get any kind of business, and they're just not feeling good about it. So let me share a little bit here about hunting, the good, the bad, the ugly, and let's first start with lead generation. All right, effectiveness. Which lead generation activities produce the most quality leads for you? Have you identified that? Which lead generation activities, and there are a lot of them, and that's also part of the problem. Part of the challenge is there's so many. And all of us as salespeople, we're hearing different things every day: social media, email, calling, LinkedIn, trade shows when we had them, virtual trade shows now. It just goes, Google search, there's just so much. So which lead generation activities really produce the most quality leads when you get down to it? What about cost? What are the tangible costs for each generation initiative? I mean, sometimes we have, we pay for leads, right? And we say, but I have owners of companies to me saying, Dan, it's costing hundreds of dollars for each lead. I need my people to be able to go and get some of these leads. And that's a different kind of salesperson. Today, we're focusing on hunting. We're not talking on, hey, Dan, if you just get me in front of them, I can do well. We're talking about how do we hunt for new business. So what are the tangible costs for each lead generation initiative? And what about the time? How much time did it take to create and follow up on these initiatives? So let's see what some of the data is going to tell us here. What % of your selling time is devoted to prospecting for new clients? And again, this study, all yours. At the end, I'll show you how to get it. You can download it and you can share it amongst yourself and study it, whatever you like to do. Well, let's take a look at this. What % of your selling time is devoted to prospecting for new clients? You would think it's a third, and a third. You would think that as salespeople, we're selling, we are servicing, and we are prospecting a third, and a third. But take a look at this. 66.5% of the people are below 40%, right? So, I mean, a third of the people are less than 20%. Now, maybe, and that's fair, you have a business that is where the leads come in, or again, maybe the phone just rings, and that's fine. I mean, that exists. But we need to take a look at this for ourselves and to say, hey, am I over there on the left? Should I be focusing a bit more on prospecting for new clients? So pardon me if I'm not looking at the chat for a moment, but I'll get back to that there in just a second. Let's take a look at characteristics of your ideal client. I mean, it's kind of common sense. I mean, we're looking for, hey, the size of the company. That's something that's important to us. Growth potential. That's important to us. Makes good sense. But I would ask you, how many of us have identified our ideal client? I mean, I hear people, again, with people, they're doing all kinds of quotes, all kinds of proposals, all kinds of RFPs. And is it for the ideal client? You know, when I do networking, I tell the story when I hear people, if they're with a payroll company, they say, you know, anybody who has employees is good for me. Is it really? Is it really? What if 10 people went and said, hey, here, go after somebody with 3 employees? It's might not be the best use of your time. Not that those aren't valuable companies. I happen to be one. But what you want to do is identify who is your ideal. Okay, and these days I'm hearing lead generation, phone calling, stopping by in person may not be something that you're able to do, which is true. I had an enterprise account the other day dealing with a company where they were saying, Dan, you know, I'm not traveling anymore. I can't get into the company and see all the other people that are in the offices where I used to be able to shake hands. I used to be able to meet people, and now I just can't do that. And so I told this person, have a call with the person you're close with, right? Have your coach, your connection in that company, and simply say, hey, let's pretend I was walking by your office. Unfortunately, I can't get and visit you right now, but let's pretend I was. Who else would you want to be introducing me to? Who do you think it would be important there that I meet? And that's a technique to bring the future back to the present. I thought that was just kind of a little something I'd add in, since you had added you don't get to walk in on person anymore. And I know that situation might have been different. But let's take a look. Percentage of clients, the client base that fits your profile. 41 to 60% of your clients are fitting your profile. There's a lot of people that we're spending our time on that really we shouldn't be spending our time on. There's a lot of people that a lot of fish we're trying to land into that boat that we really shouldn't be doing it. Now, maybe there's a few reasons for that. Maybe it's because, and probably not you, but prospecting avoidance. Maybe I rather use my time to go after people who, you know what, I'm convinced that maybe it'll turn into something bigger one day, or maybe it's more comfortable for me to deal with those size accounts than to go for bigger accounts. Maybe I'm more comfortable with talking about certain sums of money. It's a lot of reasons on why we may not be going for larger. Maybe it's a different type of buyer that I might not feel that I'm prepared to speak to. But whatever it is, we need to say to ourselves, hey, if we're going to grow our business, and now's the perfect time to do that, let's identify your ideal client. And this is a little graph that I put in here. I thought would be helpful for you, because, you know, let's face it, you know, 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our accounts. And so if you can identify, you know, geography, number of locations, really put some thought into who's your ideal client. What's the revenue? I mean, a lot of times we buy a list. We say, hey, anybody who's above between this and this. but really study it. Really say, what's my sweet spot? What is my true sweet spot that if I got more of that kind of business, I would really kill it? How much revenue? How many employees? What's the job title of that person? What's the industry and so forth? But here's what I'd like you to think about. Focus on the people who are the typical and the ideal. Now, could we say if the phone rang, and by the way, I'm talking about from a hunting perspective. I'm not saying if the phone rang, I'm not saying if it comes in that you wouldn't say, hey, you know what, not my sweet spot, but let's see what we can do. Let's help you. I mean, as salespeople, we're in the business to help people with what we have. But who's typical and who's ideal? And then we get those ones that are very tempting, but maybe too big. Maybe you say it's got a lot of zeros on there. Hey, this is going to make my year. You start taking that hopium. Man, I hope that I can land this big one. Because if I get this big one, I don't have to worry about all the other stuff and I don't have to prospect. So, but maybe it's too big where it's going to take all your resources and take your eye off the ball. So I'm just suggesting to you, again, if you think you can do it, do it. These are just suggestions. But I'm going to suggest to you that have some discipline and focus on the typical and the ideal. Typical. And that can even go to philosophy, your philosophy. Is their philosophy the same as my philosophy? I mean, it might be different in your business, but for me, I only deal with people who are committed, who want to learn, who want to grow, who care about their people. And that eliminates a lot of people. So believe it or not. So, you know, the point is, nobody here for sure, but the point is, how committed are you to getting to the next level? All right. Here's a little sheet here that I want to share right out of our program. The Ideal Company Profiler. This will help you. This is a tool to help you put that ideal company profile together. What's the average sales cycle? That's a good one to take a look at, right? What's the sales cycle for the kind of people we're going after? Are you looking to go after someone who has a 2-year sales cycle? Are you looking to go after somebody who, hey, you know what, I'm in a 2-call close, or I'm in a 3-call close, or, you know, 2 months? And some of us are in enterprise type sales businesses where it does take a few years. And if that's the case, and if it's a complex sale, fine. But let's identify that and go after who it is. What's the average sale amount? How many products or services can they possibly buy from us? That's something we want to talk about later in expanding. We have, I think, a fantastic strategy coming up later on how to expand your accounts. Who am I looking to sell? What's the method? How am I going to get there? So anyway, I don't have to go through all, but take a look at this. See if it's helpful to you. I don't know, you know, Joe and you know, when I work together, but if this isn't something that's in our resources and you think it's helpful to you, you know, let me know, and glad to get it to you. Okay, so let's keep going. What methods have you tried to attract new clients? So now these are stacked, right? I'm going to ask you, if you were to stack these for yourself in your business, which ones do you do most of? I would also ask you a question, which ones do you think are the most effective? And I would ask you to ask yourself, which ones do you spend the most time on? All right, so there's a lot of different methods here, as you can see. Hopefully they're all familiar to you. And, you know, referrals is out there, and it should be out there if done the right way. Okay. Which were the least successful? Wow. Cold calling is the least successful, followed by email. So, and you can see referrals is actually the most successful, because we go to our next slide. You're going to see that referrals is actually the best, right? And how can we do that better? Are you maximizing that? Now, cold calling is the third. So it needs, and by the way, if you're hunting, it needs to be part of your cookbook. It needs to be part of what we do. And I'm going to suggest to you that you even change the word cold calling. We've changed it. We don't like to say cold calling. We're calling it an approach call. We're simply approaching somebody to see if it makes sense to have a conversation, to see if they would entertain having a conversation with us and going further to see if we can help. An approach call. And if you can change that paradigm, change that shift, we're not cold calling. We're just looking to have an approach call, looking to have a conversation. And we'll talk a little bit on some technique here today. But today is, where do you go? Where do you need to go? Where do you need to focus? Okay, so question. If referrals are the top way to get business, first of all, let's talk about, are you trustworthy? Are you good for your word? Can people trust you? Are you reliable? Do you say you're going to do what you say you're going to do? You know, I think a lot of us say, oh, Dan, okay, referrals, great. You know, I sit back. By the way, I'm talking about proactive referrals. I'm not saying that, hey, you know what, we do a great job and you know, we get a lot of referrals in our business, and that's great. I mean, you should get those, and I know a lot of you, and you do great things. But I'm talking about proactive. How many asks do you have in your cookbook that you're going to ask each week? How many LinkedIn? How many people are you gonna look at your first connection and reach out and touch and say, hey, is there anybody you know and care about who I should be speaking to? We're going to talk about that strategy here in a little bit. But if you're going to do that, you've got to be reliable. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Are you responsive? Do you get back to people? Do you reply to their emails? A lot of us say that's a no-brainer. It's not such a no-brainer, because sometimes hopefully we're not guilty of that. But you gotta give to get. You gotta put it in before you can get it out. Are you credible? Do you know your product? Do you know your service? Do you know what you're talking about? Are you truly credible? How's your reputation? Do you have third-party stories that you can share? Do you have references? How's your reputation? How are you going to let other people know that? Do you get recommendations? Reciprocity. We all know givers gain, but are you really out for the benefit of others? Are you really out for the good of others? Are you really out trying to help? Or you really have the other person's best interest in mind, as opposed to just receiving? So it's a mindset, it's a mentality. You know, I hope you have it. Do you bring value? Are people better off knowing you than not? And do they say, my gosh, thank God I met this person today. You know, they really helped me. They really cared. And that's a very important piece. You know, many years ago, I heard something and I really carried it with me. I had heard it somewhere, I liked it. And it really was the mission. Now my goal is to help you be a slingshot to come out of this. But it used to be, hey, if you sat next to somebody on an airplane, remember those days? If you sat next to somebody in an airplane and you talk and you were talking business, and they said, well, who's the one person in your life who helped you with your business the most? My goal really was to say, well, I hope that they would mention my name. And that was really like my purpose. So the point is, do you bring value? You know, do you have that passion for your business? And do you bring that value? Are they better off knowing you than not? All right. Here's some slides about brainstorming with your referral resources. All right. Really good things to talk tracks. This is right. These are the talk tracks. Some people don't like the word scripts, and that's fine. But would you mind taking a few minutes to brainstorm with me about people you know who might need my help? Now, by the way, if you are all those attributes, all those things we just described in the previous slide, they'd love to help you. But typically we don't ask. Would you mind taking a few minutes to brainstorm with me about who you know that might need my help? Which CEO, company executive, or business owner do you know that might appreciate a phone call from me? No matter what business you're in, environmental, law, doesn't matter. Which CEO, company president, business owner do you know that might appreciate a call from me to talk about some of the issues that I've been helping you with, or some of these types of issues? And by the way, when you know your ideal, this gets a lot easier. When you know your ideal, you can let people know who you want to meet. And it's very, very critical to do that, because they want to help you. my belief is people really do want to help you, but they can help you if you just say, do you know anybody who needs what I have? Because they're not focused enough. This is a huge one. Who do you care about that would want my help? Because now I'm only going to think about people that, if you asked me, that I care about. Who do you care about? Uh-oh, somebody's off mute. How can we help with that? Okay, thank you. So as we brainstorm, please keep in mind that we're not right for everybody. Let's just take a minute to explain that to you. All right, so those are there. All right, and so I would suggest proactively we're asking for referrals. Which technology has been the most successful? Well, you're looking at this, it might not be a surprise to you. Sometimes people say, Dan, I think my CRM is the most important. And then I simply ask them, well, does your CRM tell you when somebody left a job and they show up with a new company? And they say no. And I mean, that's a very important piece to LinkedIn. Here's the issue, guys. A lot of you, listen, I'm 100% convinced that everybody here is on LinkedIn. And I know companies have had lessons on it, and that's fantastic. I'm talking about, how do you hunt? How do you hunt on LinkedIn? So when I ask my class, where are you on a scale of 0 to 10 on LinkedIn? I typically hear 5 or 6. So I don't know where you are, but is LinkedIn really working for you? And if you're gonna, I don't know if you're on Navigator, I don't know if you're on the premium, but my belief is it's a very, very good investment. And if you're not getting your investment, if you're not on the paid versions, I mean, I think then and you're not getting your return, then I don't think you would be using it correctly. This is huge. This is huge. LinkedIn, the #1, which is the #1 method for prospecting, should be the center of your prospecting universe. Everything should revolve around there. When you make an approach call, a cold call, and somebody says, hey, you know, this isn't the time right now, but you know what? It could be 2 or 3 months from now. Got a link in, right? You meet somebody when we had trade shows. Now there's some virtual trade shows. You got a link in. What about after networking? Are you linking in? And are you doing something with these connections? Are you, and I have a whole slide coming up on that. You go to a webinar, right? Or you guys come to mine. We need to link in, speaking engagements and so forth. But it's very, very important. Not enough to just be on it. You have to make it work for you. So let's just talk about some LinkedIn best practices quickly, because it is the #1 way to do it. Have you polished your profile lately? And is your profile a resume that says, you know, I am a hardworking person who, you know, does the best for everybody, who has, you know, world-class experience in this? Because when somebody goes, when you do these other things we just spoke about, and somebody goes to your profile, are they going to sit there? Are they going to look the first thing and say, hey, you got my attention? And are they going to want to do business with you? Is there something there that can help them? Or do they say, well, I'm reading your resume. Looks good, but it doesn't really speak to me. So we want to invite and connect the right people. You know, we don't know, we get a lot of connections, but if somebody reaches out to you, what you want to do is to say, I mean, if it's somebody that you think could be a good connection for you, hey, I appreciate you reaching out and your interest. Would you mind sharing with me, was it something that you think we can help each other, or was it something about Sandler that you thought hit home with you that you wanted to talk about? But we would like to know, and if you're happy to hop on a call and talk about it with you. It's a way to get more conversations as well. So that's a great practice in order to have more. And by the way, you know, 60, 70, let's go with 70% of the people you'll never hear from. So it's not about just having connections. It's what's the power in that network? Do they have a compelling reason to connect with you? You know, I'm going to give you some slides here in a few minutes on using InMail intelligently and how to reach out. Share content, certainly. Be a content expert. Give value. 80% rule of thumb, give value. Be out there, be a content expert. 80% to help people and give back. 20% of, hey, these are the events I'm doing and so forth. Tag other contacts, help other people. Their network gets to see it. Liking is good. Liking and commenting is better. and supplement lead nurturing and prospecting. So if you have Navigator and so forth, you are able to compile lists. You're able to have weekly updates on people that you're tracking and so forth. And if you're going to hunt, it makes good sense to do it. Okay. So here's just a little look at my profile. I mean, I'm just showing you, here's my 30-second commercial. If you don't have a good 30-second commercial, I'm going to suggest you get one, not a big feature and benefit one that actually speaks to the issues and problems that the people that you're looking, your ideal people have, because otherwise they're going to tune out right away. We know, I'm sure all of you know, we've worked together. People don't buy features and benefits. They buy ways to avoid pain. They buy emotionally, not intellectually. But it's not enough to just go to somebody and say, I'm here to help you with your pain. What is it? We have to earn the right to get pain. And so that's nurturing, that's bonding and rapport, that's gaining control of the sales call with upfront contracts, the things that many of you guys know. It's not, you don't just show up and say, hey, what's your pain? I'm here to help you with your pain. I mean, it's not going to get you anywhere and not differentiate you. So I think a lot of us know that. So good 30-second commercial gives you leverage, right? Gives you leverage. You have to be prepared. But so far, a lot of the things we've spoken about are, and I've heard this line on a Sandler podcast a while back, but from a data analyst, the separation is in the preparation. We can't just show up. The separation is in the preparation. Okay, so LinkedIn email, if there is a connection, if there is some kind of connection, take it, use it. We don't know each other. However, we're connected through so-and-so. On occasion, I notice someone's LinkedIn profile that causes me to believe we might benefit from knowing each other. Would you be open to connecting over the phone to determine if we can mutually benefit each other's business? So cut and paste, put the person's name in there. You have to make it a process. And it's if you're not active on it and your mindset doesn't say, hey, you know what? Is everybody going to connect? No. But on a good day, in regular conditions, we get a lot of no's. I mean, that's just what we do. So, you know, let's put some systems and processes in place so that we can go out and have repeatable, multipliable ways of hunting and winning. Hey, if no connection, we don't know each other. However, on occasion, I notice someone's LinkedIn profile that causes me to believe we might benefit from knowing each other. Would you be open-minded to connect over the phone to determine if we can mutually benefit from each other's business? All right. Hey, we'll go out also. We know that with Sandler. Go for the no. It's okay. My email to my LinkedIn contact, you know, should always be looking at your contacts. Look at somebody to see who they know. And if you're not, you're really missing something. And you have to be able to, I don't want to make it complicated, because the premium version, you can go and you can do some really nice searches. You know, by going into the search bar, clicking on the hourglass, and there's some Boolean searches, company, and it's good. And if you have Navigator, it helps you even more. But find people that they know. Don't forget, referrals is the #1 way. We're really talking about referrals, the #1 way to grow your business proactively. So reach out. I see you're connected to so-and-so. How well do you know them? Would you be comfortable introducing me? So what I found is that if I'm able to give them a template, and this is simply how I do it. Hey Barb, would you mind? I appreciate that you know this person. Would it be all right if I sent you a template? Feel free to edit, make it your own. But would you mind if I sent you a template and you can send it on to them? Barb says, sure, no problem. Because I think it's not a hassle. People want to help you, but they're busy. Tell them what to write. And then they can simply edit. I want to take the opportunity to introduce the two of you, right? And here it is. Danny's the owner of Sandler Training. He's done a lot of great work over the years helping us. And I've had people take this and change it. And I've had people put in there, I've been selling for 30 years, thought I was successful, and I started working with Danny, and it changed my life. I've had that, and I've had people say, it sounds interesting, I'd love to talk. Take proactive approaches, because I know you all do great things. And you are givers. I know, I can't say I know everybody, but I know the majority. And I think that you guys are awesome, and you got to go out and be proactive about it. Okay, this is a tool from our Sandler Enterprise Sales Program, and it's called LinkedIn Levers. Okay, now when you have this could be used for anything, any size account. I'm just saying that this tool is taken specifically from that. Now, go through the discipline. You know, if you're going to look at somebody's profile, look at some of the questions. You know, do you have mutual questions? That's a no-brainer, a client. But yes, but take a look. This is a checklist. You know what this is? This was referred to me recently by somebody as fingerprinting. Fingerprinting. If I can take the time to do this, and I can find clues, this gives you clues as to how it can help you to connect better with them than your competition. David Sandler always said selling is a fine-edged sword. Sometimes it's won, you know, like a horse race, right? Sometimes a horse race is won by a nose. Sometimes it's won by a whisker. If this can give us the slight edge, it's fingerprinting. It leaves clues. Don't just say I looked at their profile as I'm dialing or as I'm sending an email. Take the time. Take the time. And if you're not going on every day to LinkedIn and looking at the updates and seeing the companies that people left and companies people started and you know, I really think you're missing something. And you know what? I've changed my philosophy. If we spoke a few years ago about this, I would say do it during no pay time, right? Do it when your prospects and clients aren't available. Do it in your morning coffee. Do it at night. I think it's important enough to go to LinkedIn 3 times a day, see what's going on, because it prompts you to speak to people. It prompts you to go in and to say, hey, here's a person I haven't connected with in a long time, and I really should do that. So I'm not saying to sit there all day on it, but I am saying you got to check in and make it the center of your universe. The study doesn't lie. It's the raw data. So it's the new way to sell, not just to have an account. Okay. Let's talk for a moment about the prospecting approach call. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We do cold calling boot camps and so forth, but let's just talk about the main philosophy about a prospecting approach call. So, yeah, we have a talk track for it, right? Yeah, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, it's Danny Wood. You're probably in the million of 100 different things. Am I catching you at a bad time? Not, hey, how are you today? Not, am I catching you at a good time? By the way, at Sandler, we want to do the opposite of what people expect. If they're expecting somebody to say, hey, how you doing? I'm not asking, right? If they're expecting me to go into a feature and benefit dump, I'm not doing it. Hey, it's Danny Wood, Sandler Training. You're probably in the middle of 100 different things. Am I catching you at a bad time? See, notice the tonality. Notice the curiosity. Notice there's no threat. Notice they're not saying, hey, I'm speaking to a salesperson. You don't know me. But my company is Sandler Training. I own a company here in Rutherford. We work here in Rutherford. But before I share with you the purpose of my call, do you mind if I ask you a question? Hey, are people getting back up to work? Or did you guys ever stop? How you been holding up? So, I mean, this is a way of getting into a little bit of some empathy here first. Now, can I and do I say to people, do I get into my new commercial? Believe me, 60 days ago, I changed my commercial, you know, immediately. So I did it earlier for you. I put people in different buckets. You know, I've been reaching out. Hope you guys doing all right. You guys back up to work yet? Did you ever stop? How things holding up? You know, I found that I've been reaching out to business owners. They come in really 1 of 3 categories. You know, I find that 20% are this, 20% of that, 60 are this. I'm not sure which one you're in. So, you know, you want to be able to have a well-crafted 30-second commercial. Okay, here's one where there's 2 different situations. We've talked to a lot of people about the impact of the current situation. I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to smell salesy. And this would be your approach. Now, you know, I think, and rightfully so, 2 months ago and still today, we're all reaching out. You want to keep what you have, and companies are reaching out to their current clients and so, and that was the right thing to do for sure. But we really need to start to look about how we're going to have some outreach now. How are we going to, the time is right to start to hunt. A good rule of thumb, on when we have crisis is Saturday Night Live, right? When Saturday Night Live starts to have some skits about it, right? It might say, hey, you know what? Things have lightened up a little bit. It's okay. You know, if it's taboo to talk about, then you know, and joke about, you know, this is no joke, we know. But if the point is, it's that, you know, it's in an odd kind of way. I was talking with somebody about this. It's a sign that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time to move forward. But the fact is, with business, it is, because there's more people out there that we can help. So back to the script. You know, we talked to a lot of people about the impact of the current situation on their business. We're here in one of two situations. You know, they believe that they should think about ramping up and getting back to work. Others find they're in the fortunate position they didn't miss a beat. Hey, what situation are you in? That's called the menu question. We're always giving menu questions. You know, a lot of times people say, Dan, I did some training, I learned open-ended questions. And I say, what are the questions? They say, well, I have no idea, but I learned open-ended questions. These are structured questions. This is your playbook. Be prepared. Have them. Don't just show up. Okay. Sales requires a cadence. Day 1, email. Day 3, right? Skip a day. Email 2 in the morning, voicemail in the afternoon. Day 5, voicemail 2 in the morning, voicemail 3 in the afternoon. Now, a lot of times the head trash says, I don't want to be a pest. I'm just trying to help. Our job is to have conversations, see if we can help. That's all that it is. I remember the articles that would come to me that I had a client send me an article. One of them, this is before the COVID, said, hey, Dan, it says cold calls are dead. And then another client, Dan, cold calls are dead. What do you think of this? I read the article and it said, you know, it's old school. People are going to think it's old. It's, you know, you don't look current. It doesn't work. Nobody's there. Another person sent me an article. Cold calling is dead. I read the article. Maybe you've seen it too. It said, thank God there's an article going around that cold calling is dead, because the more people that don't, the more people there is for me. You know, the more people that read the article on how it's dead and don't pick up a phone, the more it's good for me. So we have this expression. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about it this morning. You heard the Nike, just do it. Just put it. Just P-U-T-T. Pick up the phone. Sometimes it's a matter of just having a conversation. And we're so worried about the words. Words are 7% of effective communication. Tonality and body language are 97. No, I mean 93. All right. So, hey, you need to practice. You need to have scripts. You need to have battle cards. Battle cards are those the index cards that have, what are you going to hear? When you flip it over, you got your answer. You've got to be memorizing them. You've got to be prepared. General Schwarzkopf said, hey, for every ounce of sweat I'm paraphrasing this, during peacetime, you know, that we practice is an ounce of blood during wartime. We've got to be practicing. You got to own it. Role play, find a swim buddy, find an accountability partner, find somebody who you can practice with, and record calls if you can. Okay, so I'm going to go through this a little bit here because there's a big piece I need to share with you. But the cookbook, what's your daily behavior? Are you getting up in the morning? Have you re-engineered? Have you reverse engineered where you need to be? What is it going to take for me to get the amount of business I want to get? Instead of just having a business by default, I have to have one by design. If you're going to make a recipe, if you're going to make, hey, it's Memorial Weekend. Who makes homemade barbecue sauce? A little honey, a little this, a little that. If you do, invite me over. But the fact is that you're not going to wing it. Hey, I'll put some Worcestershire in here. I'll put some Tabasco in here. I was like, what'd you do? So I got to have a recipe. I got to have a cookbook that if I do it every day, I know I'm going to get the results that I want. I know. Sandler has a rule. You can put the plan together, and you can bet on the outcome. Because if you do it, and you do it with discipline and consistency, it's going to happen. But you have to re-engineer it. What is your goal? How many people do I need to speak to? How many customers are needed? How many appointments do I need to have? And I hear it all the time. Hey, Dan, my average order is very different. I can sell a bolt, or I could sell pieces. I understand. But what's the average? What's your sweet spot? as we started with here. What's your ideal client profile? Okay, so what do we need to do to go out, pick up the phone, do the reps, do the LinkedIn, you know, do what we need to do, because you can't manage anything you can't control. You can't. You can only manage what you do. You can't manage your numbers. You can only manage your behavior. You can't manage if they take out a checkbook. You can't manage if they send you a purchase order. But you can manage the things that you can control. And if you do the right things right, you're going to win more than you lose. Okay. How successful are you at winning additional business? Here's this amazing tool I wanted to share with you. But take a look at the statistic. All right. So, I mean, you have people that say, hey, winning additional business, I'm at, 42.3%. Some are very successful at that. That's great. So let me share with you a strategy. And do you focus on that enough? Or, hey, you know what? Let me look at neutral to the not very successful. I mean, it's half the people aren't, or a little less. Okay. The KARE model. This is critical because this is going to help you with your time management. It's going to help you with reaching your goals. It's critical. We have to put our prospects, how we're going to get our business in 4 different categories. So it's called the KARE model. The first one is keep. Who are the clients that I want to keep? Now, it's not just, hey, it's my biggest client that I want to keep them. It can be, and that is true. But it can be, what about some of the smaller ones who you can't spend all your time with, but you want to touch them digitally. You want to keep them. You don't want them to go away. So, I mean, that's one aspect. But certainly you have to have a good account manager, and you want to keep them. The problem is sometimes we spend too much time doing keep. I'm a good account manager, but I'm not a hunter. Today, we're talking about hunting for new revenue. So take a look at attain and recapture. Those are the hunting attributes. That's hunting. Keep and expand, that's growing the existing business, right? So clients and accounts you want to attain, those are the new logos. Those are the people you say, in order to get the number that I want, I got to get new logos in here. Now your strategy is going to be different for those. What about the ones I want to recapture? Maybe they're past clients, maybe they're people that got away, things have changed, and I have to go after those as well. And then there's the biggest way is to expand the people that you already have. Who would you like to increase revenue with? But you have to be able to have a strategy for that. And so there's a great tool, KARE in a Crisis. So at the end of this, please go to where I'll show you. You can get a nice little worksheet on KARE in a Crisis that hopefully can help you. Okay. But why is this important? It's important because as salespeople, we're thinking of these all the time. And we're also going to the ones that are the most comfortable. And and you should have done that for the first 6-8 weeks or whatever, but we got to, what are the other ones? And the other ones may make you more uncomfortable. So you got to look at it and you got to say, how much time am I going to spend in the keep area? Maybe I'm 15% there, right? What percent am I going to be in attain? Maybe I'm 30% there. What am I going to do for recapture? What am I going to do for expand? And then you got to put that cookbook together on what are the activities that I'm going to do in each one. How much time am I going to spend today or this week on each one? Pardon me. We have to separate them so that you can go back and say, if I'm going to have the year that I want to have, and you can do it, this is how many keeps, this is how many attains, this is how many recaptures, this is how many expands. And you got to look at the characteristics of each one. Client retention factors, right? Be proactive. Call them. I mean, these are all things that we need to do. What's the strategy to do? Find ways to truly help. Seek to understand these attains. Use the tools. Use your cookbook. Give first to the relationship. Grow the relationship. How are you going to attain them? How are you going to get the new logos? And how much of your business should be in that? Recapture. Whew. How many people have you done business with in the past? And what's your talk track for getting them? I called them. They're not interested. I mean, we have to have humility. We have to call. We have to do the okay, not okay theory. Hi, it's Danny. And listen, I know we did a ton of business years ago, but not sure what went wrong. I accept responsibility. I mean, you figure out your talk track on what it is. But you know what? Market news, be aligned, be current. Have something to talk about when you call, so that you care. CARE in that case. How are we going to expand? You know, it's the bankers. I know we have I believe one of the bankers was coming on. I think it was somebody from Sterling Bank. If you're here, thank you. But I just want to take, and maybe, I don't know you, but maybe you're in the commercial side. I don't know, or maybe in retail, but you know, there is that retail banker mentality that is, how do I create stickiness? How do I, if I could sell you, if you have a checking account, and I can also do if you have savings and checking, I could also do savings, maybe a mortgage, right? Maybe a loan. How are you creating stickiness? How are you, because then you'll never leave if you do things right. But you have to kind of have that, you know, and I train a lot of banks, but it's interesting. You want to have that kind of mentality. Well, what else can I sell you to help you? Not in a bad way. Not pushing, not the company that we know that there was an issue a few years ago. It's okay. How am I trying to help people, right? What else can I help you with? Why go somewhere else if it could be done with me? And I can't tell you the amount of times that I hear people say, I didn't even know your company did that. I have salespeople that are afraid to ask. People go somewhere else and you say, why are you doing it with them? We do that. They say, I didn't know you did that. So let's see how we can expand. So we came to the end of our time. A couple things here. Would anybody want to just share one or two best practices? Oops. Here's where you go, guys. Here's what I'd like you to go so that you can, you know, download a couple of things you have here. You got an e-learning library, which you could with hundreds of resources. So it's I guess like a limited edition, but it's still very robust, of a Sandler online portal. You've got the KARE in a Crisis worksheet that we're talking about, and you've got the Hunt for New Clients survey that we just spoke about as well. Possible one or two people might just tell me what you learned, and then I have a question for you before we go, and then we could you know, I'll let you get on with your day. Yeah.
Hey, Danny, Mark Fontanella.
Hey, what's up, Mark?
I really enjoyed the LinkedIn script and also the phone call scripts, because, you know, we could bang our heads against the wall for hours trying to think of like the perfect script in order to say to somebody. And I think obviously they're tailored to today, not so much 3 months ago. So exactly. I really like those. And then I've always been wondering, how can I talk to somebody on LinkedIn where it would be credible? And I think that's pretty good. Asking, hey, you know, you and I have a good relationship. Who else can I help the same way I helped you? So that was awesome. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It's tremendous. It really is. It'll work for you. Make it the center of your universe, really, absolutely, as opposed to just having an account and saying, yeah, it doesn't work for me. You know, I'm not saying that people say that, but if we do it in a limited way, we're going to have limited results. How about one more? Anybody?
Clara O'Boyle here.
Clara from Tennessee. You
I haven't used Zoom an awful lot, but I'm noticing down here on the lower left on the menu bar, there's an invite button. And I could have used that to invite a few more friends. And I'm going to do that next time.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you picked up on that. That's good stuff. What else? Anybody else want to share a little nugget they took today? Nothing else to make me feel good that there's something else that.
Hey, Danny, it's Anthony Turiello. How are you?
Great, Anthony. How are you? I was so happy to see your registration this morning. Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the critical pieces here is for what you said, understanding what type of prospecting and lead generation you're doing, right, and give it a value. What is producing the most? Because I think at these times it's important to know that. And what is producing the most should be done more and utilized more, and just discipline yourself to do those activities. But if we're not doing a bunch of different activities across different buckets, and we're just kind of doing one, you know, we're not understanding what the market's calling for.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So you don't want to, you know, don't have all your eggs in one basket. You know, it's another Sandler, another way of looking at it. You know, yeah. And was anybody else have something before?
Yeah, Danny, this is Ron. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
So Danny, it's always a pleasure. You know, I suffer from sales wariness, and you always have a good pick me up. So thank you.
Well, I'm always happy when you join, Ron. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
My pleasure to have your trust in me. So thank you.
Hey, Danny, it's Roman.
Hey, Roman.
Hey, wanted to say, the part I thought that was, really crucial during these times is the, identifying or re-identifying who your customer is,
Yeah.
right? In our industry, where it's, you can say it's primarily office equipment. Yeah, you could say the whole thing, it's anyone who has an office. We sell other products too. Office equipment now has kind of, for some of our talk tracks, taken a back seat because essentially we're a technology company, and that's what you got to do. You got to diversify yourself. You got to be creative. You got to put together some different kind of plans and packages, all to help these folks out. So that's absolutely been huge. And, for myself, I've been having a lot of success with, different kinds of unique conversations. So that's definitely something you got to do. And I really like the, that one slide. I did a print screen of it. Give me one sec here. The script introduction, right? Got to be more empathetic and sympathetic, and we truly are all on, in this kind of together, and you got to let the client know that.
Right. You're right. You're right. It's you got to have that empathy, Roman. Where it's people helping people, right? It really is. And so you gotta go in it that way, which is great. And then Tom, thanks for sending this to me. Your takeaway was doing your homework and plan for each contact and connection that is time well spent. And Tom, I mean, you're an architect, in architecture, right? And design and so forth. And yeah, why would you go out and do something and just show up without having those plans? I've seen some of the magnificent work you've done that you've shared in our group, and how could you do that without a plan? So if you're going to do an office space, you don't just show up with all your interior. You got to know what you're going to do, right? So the point is, what can we do so that we can aim, right, and then shoot, as opposed to shoot and then aim. So great. All right. So if you guys could just do this, I know our time is up. If you wouldn't mind, if you go into the chat, just send me a note privately, if you will. Danny, private, and because a lot of times when people hang up and so forth, we don't have I don't know if you'd like to have an opportunity to speak, if you'd like to know a little bit more about what I do and how I help people, and maybe how I can help you, and just learn a little bit about your business, just to send me a private email. Says, yes, Dan, please give me a call. If you don't want me to bother you, it's not a problem. We could be seminar buddies, not a problem at all. Just click no and let me know. So, either one of those would really be helpful to me. All right, guys. So thanks so much. Have a very successful day. Hope you got what you were looking for today, and look forward to connecting soon. All right. You take care.